And good morning and welcome to Small Business Chat. Welcome and hello, Karen, who is
Good
streaming
morning.
live.
Hello. Ooh, where's my cup of coffee?
Where's your cup? I was going to say, streaming live from a boat, I'll have you know. I'm loving this
Absolutely.
conversation. We're going to be talking about this a little bit more, but we're back after a week off. Karen has moved. She's now embarking on a glorious new life on a boat. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this view now. I'm going to call her captain as she steers our ship forward with this show. But today we're talking about pay-to-pay partnerships and what to expect. And the reason we're talking about this is that we talked about PR in the previous episode. And as you're contacting various media, you might be asked to sort of embark on more paid for activity, not just media, but then also you're trying to grow your reach, because that's why a lot of people will go to media, because they think, oh, I'll get the mass reach, I'll be promoted. The other way that you could do it is through like-minded businesses or organizations. They also have an audience, and you spend all this time, Karen and I go on and on about growing your audience, building that, everything you're doing, bring it back to the hub, make sure you get them signed up. So that gold list, that list is gold dust to whoever owns it, as you're growing it and they're more engaged. So as you can imagine, your partnership or organization or company will have an existing list that will also be gold dust to them. So how do you work with them, work together across all of your audiences, and how to make that work? And it might come across as a bit of a surprise when you're trying to do PR and think, oh, how do we work together? Well, there might be a cost involved, there might not be. So we're just going to be chatting today about setting those expectations, which hopefully sounds good.
Brilliant. So what is this is Kristel's expertise area. So I'm going to launch into some questions here. So what does partnership activity actually involve?
So it can really depend. And because we're going to be talking, you're here on Small Business Chat, SMEs, you might not have come across them before. So I'm going to really strip it back down. So in terms of partnerships, it is basically activity where you're tapping into each other's audiences. Or it might be that, you're working with an organization, you want to promote maybe your product, your service, or maybe a special offer through their channels. Again, we talk about hubs, don't we? Hub Fizz. Open that hub for your business of comms. So really what we're trying to do is there'll be various streams of communication that you will have. Just think of your own business for a moment. You might have your social media, you might have a newsletter, there might be a platform that you have for your business. Same thing for them. They might have like a blog, they might have like a news a podcast, they might have sort of like showcase their knowledge, their expertise. So you want to be able to be in sort of like all their different comms or their activities, and distribute that out. It's different to an advert, which is like I'm giving you assets and you're just going to place those assets. It's more of a cross promotion. Like sometimes it could be one way. So we're going to give you the content and you're going to pay for it, for that opportunity. Or it could be a cross promotion. So what could you do? Sometimes it could be paid. So there is, again, as Karen says, sometimes in the realms of PR, we do this more often than not. We might look at, actually, we've got lots of product. Why don't we give that product away so that they could do a competition, reach their audience that way? There's much more creative ways of doing it. So it's just something to bear in mind, and that there is a menu of opportunities that, how does that partnership work? The most important thing that I would say is that when you're looking at sort of what that involves, you want to make sure that you're targeting the right group and the right audiences. So we talk about brand values. We come from our chain of activity will be, what's your brand, what are the values, how are you communicating that? And when you're working with an organization or a fellow brand or even like fellow media partner, they'll have a set of values or a target audience that they want to connect with. This is where you have to make sure that it's aligned. And when that's aligned, that's what makes a great partnership, because you know that you're tapping into the right audience and that they're more likely to be converted by the introduction that's being made.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's where a lot of mistakes people make, because they go, oh, that sounds like a great opportunity. Let me put an advert in there, or let me partner with this person and get some promotion sent out to their database. And it's the wrong audience and nothing comes right of it. So I think that's really important to do that. So how do you target and approach an ideal sort of partnership opportunity?
Yeah, so I mean, it could be like, who's the first person to contact? So it could be marketing, there could be a partnerships person that's involved. I usually go on LinkedIn if I'm trying to find somebody, just do a bit of digging, see who that, it's usually under marketing, or if not, marketing can point you in the right direction. And so what you do is, I tend to have something prepared. So in terms of two ways of doing it, you can have the initial conversation. I just find that sometimes people are just too busy, so they want to know information up front, and that you're more prepared when you're having that brief conversation. So understanding why you're aligned. Could it be because it's the same audience, or it's both, you're both committed to the same values or the same drive? What is it that connects you? And then also really think not just about how you're going to provide value to their audiences or their followers or their communities, but actually, what have you got? Have you got products? Have you got time, services that you could sort of make that package more attractive? Have you got budget? Is there something that you could pay for, like put together for them? Have you got again, I always think sometimes with product, it's the most overlooked one, and yet it's sometimes the most easiest to think about. And then also think about, have you got your own channels? If you've spent a long time, cultivating a platform for yourself, maybe it could be a podcast, or maybe it could be your own newsletter. Could you do a bit of cross promotion there? Would that be of interest to them? So just think about what on both sides that you have that you can share and sort of bring together, so that when you're approaching them, it's not so cold. They know that you have understood their audience, which is really important. You understand the messaging, that it's in line, because that's what they're looking for. It's like, setting up someone on a blind date. If you're going to introduce someone to a friend that you think, you want it to work, you don't want to give them a dud blind date that they're going to hate. So the same thing is that, we've cultivated this community, and we've really spent lots of time, effort, and energy into making this community work for us. We're not going to invite just anybody in. So that's why you've got to show straight away we're a match. This is why I think your audience would love us, or we definitely can share something or complement. So yeah, I think that's something that is key to think about when you're approaching it and you're doing that initial email, or you're going to meet with them. Maybe just have like a few slides prepared or a document prepared that will outline that.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it is. It's about making it easier for them and giving them all the tools that they need to do it, to make their job easier. And you're more likely then for them to do it. If you want them to send out something on your behalf, prepare that fully, so it's just easy for them to kind of go do and send it as well, from a marketing point of view or PR point of view. So what is required on your part as the person, the small business who's looking to do these partnerships?
You might have to provide content, just bear that in mind. You might have to provide content, you might have to provide assets, you might have to provide we mentioned before, product. You might have to provide a fee, there might be a cost involved. So don't be shocked by that. A lot of people, especially if they're more established and it's a wider audience, they might cost. So just bear that in mind when you're going to meet with them, and don't be too affronted by it, because yes, you may be absolutely the perfect fit, but there has to be some sort of benefit, and the more established they are, the more the cost goes up. So just something to bear in mind.
Brilliant. And finally, my last question I've got for you is sort of, how do you kind of set those expectations for a win-win campaign? Because obviously, all of this, busy business owners, everything takes time. It might be a bit of cost. So, how can you best prepare them for that?
Yeah, and just bear in mind, the more established businesses will probably give you like a contract or an agreement, but if it's not, it might be worth putting something in place. So really understanding who the parties are that are involved, what the activity is that you've agreed. So is it newsletter support? Is it, what is it that you've asked each other to do? Who's going to provide what? What's the timeline? What costs are involved if there's a fee? And really sort of like what the deliverables are. So little things like if you're running a competition, you want to make sure that, you're not breaching any data. You want to make sure that anyone that has, like if you're running a competition, do you have access to that mailing list, or not access, but as in anyone that opts in for that competition, are you allowed to, contact them? Just ticking these things off. You're looking to grow your audience and get them attracted in what you're offering. So again, if you're doing things like that, making sure that you've ticked every box, dotted every I, crossed every T. So yeah, I think that putting that in some sort of draft agreement and getting that signed, making sure that you've got the timeline in place, what activity, what the start date is, the end date. And again, if there's any costs involved, just to add that in and have it signed. Because then if somebody's agreed to it and they've left, then at least you can carry on the activity because it's it was planned. So again, people aren't starting from complete scratch. But hopefully that just gives you a brief overview. I think that a lot of people don't think about how to work with other businesses, organisations like that. But there are really good opportunities. It could be at events, it could be showcasing. Sometimes the one-off things like, come and speak at this opportunity, speak at this event. It's a one-off. You don't need to do a partnership agreement. But if it is a series of things that you're going to really raise your profile through their audience and their channels, it might be a bit more structure and formalisation in place.
Excellent. Now something's just happened with my sound, so I can hardly hear you.
Oh, no.
I turned off Do Not Disturb and someone keeps trying to ring me and it's affected what I can hear from you. But so you're coming out very soft, but hopefully the viewers out there who are watching, you can hear everything okay. Can you hear me all right, Chris?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Okay. You're just very, very coming across very soft, and I've tried adjusting the volume. So apologies about that. But yeah, no, thank you. That's really some really useful information there. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't know a lot about, when it comes to that. And it does give people a lot of, opportunity. Even if you're not doing social media or you don't have an email list or anything like that, you can obviously leverage other partners and people to do that.
Good point, actually. A lot of people that are thinking, I just need to tap into these other audiences to grow mine. Like, remember, start growing yours with that intention, because at some point you're going to grow your audience where it's going to be beneficial to somebody else. So you want to have all of these things in place so that if somebody came to you, you could also say, yeah, but that has to come at some value to either the business that I'm running or my audience itself. So, bear that in mind, that when you're building your audience and growing your business, it's a two-way thing. People might be coming to you after at some point. If your work is so hard to produce, like the best winning, like podcast, for example, and they, that's why you'll then end up having sponsors, because somebody wants to tap into that. So just bear that in mind, that this is something to work towards as well, in rather than just paying out the money, people paying you.
Excellent. Okay, well, that brings us to an end of another great small business chat, and we're going to be on again same time next week. So for those of you watching the replay, do check out more details about us below. Leave your comments. Do join us every Tuesday live on YouTube, and we'll get the details up for the next week's show soon, won't we? We've got an idea for what we're going to do about that, so we'll let you know as soon as possible.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone.
So take care.